I'm so glad we can walk today. It's a little bit of a drizzly morning. I hope you're doing well. I wanted to share something with you that I experienced during prayer time this morning. And it was really interesting because I saw myself sort of like a structure, like the Eiffel Tower or a tower. That's kind of what it looked like to me, the Eiffel Tower. And I saw that on a structure, when it's being put up, sometimes you can see cables anchoring different parts of the structure out to other things for stability until that part is finished, and then the cables come off, and then the structure is standing there all by itself. And I saw myself like that, and I saw these cables going out into the world, into different structures of the world outside of me. And I just saw God releasing those cables. And it actually felt a little bit unnerving to me emotionally, because I realized that during my whole process of life and growth, there were outside things that I had been anchored to for my stability. And I needed to be, because without those anchors, I would have fallen. And as I was in this prayer time and I was seeing these cables come loose, what happened to them was they all came back inside of me, and they anchored themselves to Christ inside of me. And I felt this knowing inside of me that all of the things that I was anchored to, that I trusted, that were outside of me, were no longer necessary, because I was truly anchored to Christ inside of me in all of the areas of my life, not just a couple of them, but all of them. And it was such an empowering feeling. As I said, initially it was a little bit unnerving, because I realized this is new territory for me. I've never been standing alone. I've always been anchoring myself to other things, trusting in the structures of the world around me to support me and to help me not to fall. And now the one who is in me is my support, and I am anchored to Christ. And because of it, I cannot fall. And I cannot tell you how empowered I feel because of this today. And there was something else that was with it that I thought was really significant too. And that is that it was not me that was taking the cables off of the outside structures. It wasn't something that I was doing. It was something that God was doing, because I must have been built up enough in that area, and that foundation must have been built up enough to the point where I could withstand that release from those outer things. Because if I couldn't yet, I don't think that He would have done that. And He was the one who built me up line upon line, precept upon precept within my spirit, word upon word, teaching upon teaching me every day, speaking to me every day, proving Himself to be true every single time that I listened to His word. And He proved it, no matter what it looked like outside, no matter what opposite seemed to be facing me, no matter who was giving me opposite advice or pressure. And every single time that I went with his voice, every single time that I planted his word, I was building the structure of this tower that God lives in. But he was doing it. Christ was doing the building, but I had to do the yielding. I had to do the allowing so that I could be built upon his word, so that I could stand, so that I would be built upon the rock, and that I would never fall no matter what was happening outside of me, because I was anchored inside of me. And you know what? Now that my cables do not go out there anymore, it doesn't matter what happens to the structures around me. If they fall, I'll stand strong because I'm not anchored to them anymore, and they are not supporting me anymore. It's extremely liberating. And it's also interestingly and wonderfully not condemning. No, I never felt like, oh no, I had anchors in the world. I had anchors to outside structures. I never felt that convicted of that or that was wrong. Not at all. It's just like God knows where to meet us. He knows where we are. He knows what we trust and what we don't yet. And he's not condemning us for that. He's taking us from where we are, taking our hand, loving our heart, hugging us, kissing us, and speaking gently to the areas of our life where we don't yet have an anchor in Christ. And as we begin to receive that, our anchor becomes Christ. And those other support systems will be separated from them when he says we're ready to be. When he takes the cables and he places them on himself. And when he does that, we're going to be ready. Not before. And I just love that about God. I just love that it's Christ who begins the work. It's Christ who finishes the work in us. It's Christ who writes the story of our life. And it's Christ who makes us strong in him. And we do not have to be stuck with the burden of building that temple ourselves. We do not have to be stuck with the burden of cutting a cable we're not ready to cut yet, and then being confused and not understanding where we're at. And this is so much freedom. It's the freedom of a loving parent who understands that you need furniture to coast along when you're learning how to walk, and that's okay. And I just feel honestly so tremendously loved, so nurtured, and so well taught. And I just wanted to share that with you today. And I know the same thing is happening for you. I know that Christ is speaking to your heart today, knowing exactly what you've been trusting in, knowing exactly how hard and how painful and frustrating it has been for you because you haven't walked in freedom yet in some areas of your life. And that there's no condemnation for you, and there's no anger towards you, and there's no disappointment. There's no disappointment. There's a loving, perfect parent with the power to teach you and guide you and show you how to walk and show you how to stand tall, who's willing to do the work for you if you will allow it. And your job is just to allow it, not to force yourself, but to allow Christ to do it. And as you do, step by step, just as we're walking on this trail today, step by step, all of a sudden we find ourselves different, changed, strengthened, united in truth, walking in it freely, knowing who we are, knowing what the truth is, not confused, but absolutely clear-minded and sound. We are a sound structure. We are a sound structure. And we are a trustworthy structure that others can lean upon and they can tie their cables to until they're ready to stand strong on their own, anchored to the Christ within them. So I love you. I bless your walk and your journey today. I'm so honored that you're with me and mine. I'm so thankful for the opportunity to share my life and my journey with you. And I'm just blessed that we are walking together. I trust that what is happening in me is happening in you. I love you, love you, love you. I'll see you on our next walk.